What's going on, guys? Lon here from Android Authority, coming to you live from New York City to bring you your first look and hands-on of ZTE's AXON phone. So the main idea behind the AXON phone is it's a phone that's designed for the consumer, a phone that is meant to give you pretty much everything you would want. It's entirely made of metal with some nice curves along the corners and backside that give the phone a very comfortable feel, and it's extremely solid because of the metal unibody design. This phone isn't striving to be the thinnest or lightest, measuring in at 9.3 millimeters thick and 175 grams in weight, but when holding it in the hand, the phone feels substantial. Going around the device, you'll find much of the buttons and ports in their typical locations, but something the AXON phone has that many other Android phones don't is a dedicated camera key to make it quick and easy to launch directly into the camera and snap photos. Capacitive keys can also be found on the front, denoted by a glowing circle for the home button and two individual dots for menu and recent apps. At first glance, you might think the AXON phone features dual front-facing speakers with a matching set of uniquely styled grills, but unfortunately only the bottom is a speaker. Something this phone does have two of, however, is the cameras on the rear, which coincidentally feature the same grill styling for some extra flair. On the front is a 5.5-inch screen, but the AXON phone is considerably larger than some other 5.5-inch smartphones in terms of height due to the large top and bottom bezels, and of course the two grills on the top and bottom definitely add to that as well, so one-handed usability might be a bit of a challenge for some. Besides just having a large 5.5-inch screen, the AXON phone's front panel is also very sharp with a resolution of 2560 by 1440 or Quad HD, resulting in a pixel density of 534 ppi. So far, the screen looks fantastic with great colors, viewing angles, and brightness, and should be a pleasure to use in all situations, whether it's just normal day-to-day tasks or playing the occasional game or movie. Under the hood, the AXON phone packs a Qualcomm Snapdragon 810 processor clocked at 2 GHz, the Adreno 430 GPU, and is one of the few phones on the market with a whopping 4 gigs of RAM. This is the revised version of the Snapdragon 810 processor, so overheating should not be an issue, and performance on this device at first glance seems rather snappy and responsive, and with 4 gigs of RAM, doing heavy multitasking or playing games should pose very little problems for the AXON phone. Whether the overheating issues rears its ugly head again is something we can only find out after really putting the device through its paces when we give it the full review treatment, so stay tuned for that. But for the short time we got to spend with the device, it was as smooth as you would expect it to be. For storage, the AXON phone comes with 32 GB of onboard memory, which is the only option available, and without a micro SD card slot, you'll have to either rely on the cloud for extra storage or make do with the 32 gigs. Aside from all the other usual connectivity options, the AXON phone will carry 4G LTE compatibility for T-Mobile and AT&T here in the States. The AXON phone will also be the first phone sold in the US that features hi-fi audio playback, which is supposed to give you a fuller, louder, and purer sound quality than ever before, and you should be able to notice the difference even with a pair of inexpensive earbuds. Keeping the phone powered throughout the day is a beefy 3000 mAh battery, so at least on paper, battery life should be good for a full day, if not more. Now, because this phone is made of metal, you don't have wireless charging capabilities. However, you do get to take advantage of Qualcomm's quick charge technology. Now, the dual lens setup on the rear is comprised of a 13 megapixel main shooter and a 2 megapixel secondary sensor. This is similar to what we saw on the One M8 to allow for a much faster autofocus and the ability to refocus shots after the fact. The camera is also capable of video recording in 4K and comes with twin microphones along with some of the best in noise suppression technology to help eliminate background and wind noise when recording concert videos and voice calls. The device also packs a wide-angle 8 megapixel front-facing camera, which should be good for all of you selfie lovers. The camera interface is fairly simple, with various different modes being accessible with just a swipe across the display, but the most interesting feature of the camera is the ability to adjust the f-stop on the fly from 8 all the way down to 1, although this is most likely done at a software level and not exactly a real aperture change. As to how well this camera actually stacks up to the competition, we'll have to wait and see, but with phones like the G4 and S6, it's got a tough road ahead of itself. For the software, the Axon phone is running on 5.1.1 Lollipop, and ZTE has done some customizations, and there's a handful of pre-installed apps like Argus and Rock My Run for tracking your fitness data, but for the most part they've kept things very light, and many of Google's material design aesthetics have been kept intact, like the notification drop down and the overview screen, and this definitely helps maintain a snappy performance. The Axon phone will be available for pre-orders directly from ZTE and other retailers like Amazon and Newegg for a price of $500 and will be shipping out in the coming weeks. It isn't exactly impulse buy territory at $500, but with an all-metal design, a Quad HD display, 4 gigs of RAM, dual cameras, and a large 3000 mAh battery powering it all, the Axon phone packs a major punch for the price. As always, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this quick hands-on of the Axon phone. Keep it tuned here for more coverage of the Axon phone and everything else that we have coming down the road. And as always, give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, and also subscribe to the channel, which is also down below if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. Keep it tuned here to Android Authority, because we are your source for all things Android.